Hi, Graham. Thanks for making the time to catch up with me.
Well, thanks, George, for the opportunity as well to talk about this.
So, Graham, are there any real-world examples that you could draw on how orphan software was discovered and had to be dealt with?
Yes, like I said, sort of different organisations I've worked. I've seen a little bit of everything, but one does come to mind, and it's always the war story you remember, where working in an organisation that was an intermediated sales channel. So you had intermediaries out there selling the particular product or service. Those intermediaries got remunerated based on their sales, which is quite common. So the central part of that sales team in the head office, if you like, the organisation, have their sales CRM tool. So they look at that every day to see their sales dashboard, what sales are coming in, what sales are being converted, how those opportunities get realised. And that gives them a very important view of the efficiency of their sales channels in different geographies and products, but also forms a critical part of, because it was an intermediary organisation, of then remunerating, giving the right commissions to those intermediaries. So very stock standard, well rated, an industry sort of leading CRM system. But underneath that, over the time, the business had built these little pieces of now orphan software, doing very innocent functions of translating data from one spreadsheet into another, or taking data out of this other system and putting it into the CRM. And these pieces of software working fine every day. People are coming in, seeing the sales dashboard. They can see where the sales are going, and that's great. Then one day, some of these orphan software just stopped working. Didn't know why. Suddenly, without that data getting into that sales CRM system, it became worthless. They couldn't see what sales are happening. They couldn't see what's being converted. They couldn't remunerate the intermediaries, which is really important for them because you're reliant on them to sell your product or service. So this is a great example of an orphan software and that problem, that aha moment. So one day it suddenly stops working and everyone's looking around. Well, who knows this, or how does that data actually get from over there into here? I thought it just worked like magic. And oh no, it was these Excel macros that were written 3 years ago, and we don't actually have it supported by IT because we sort of did it on the side. We don't have any documentation. And it was one of those critical moments where they needed to get this working again in a very short time so that they could still get that sales view and provide the remuneration they need to their intermediaries, which have to be based obviously on true metrics, not a promise that they sold so much. And so that was one of those key moments that I think resonates a lot of what you've described, and where that orphan software then put them in a situation where they had to react immediately how to get this thing working again when no one knew it. So there was a mad scramble to try to find someone who knew this particular version or dialect of Visual Basic scripting that had been written in this very big and unwieldy Excel set of spreadsheets. And then going forward, well, this is an important way to get this data, this fuel, into that CRM system. So we're not going to throw out the CRM. That's an important business function. It's supporting a number of business functions. It was how they remediate that orphan software and get that data in, and how do they do that without throwing away the data, obviously throwing away the rules of how that data is processed and how it's represented. So yeah, that's a good recollection of mine of a true situation where the orphan software raised its head in one of those aha moments.
Yeah.
It's a mad scramble to find someone who knows about that technology or could provide the right insight to give the directions of how to move forward. And it was in an environment where you couldn't just throw it all out and replace it all.
So that's where our ability to find people with those skills would allow us to maybe pull together a team that could go and help out and resolve those issues, and put in a strategy for maintaining that until an overarching strategy could be determined on how best to actually put in a middleware between whatever the data source was and the CRM system.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. A lot of people are in a sense of calm and a steady state environment where the things are working, but they're sitting on these time bombs. And I think that's where they need to take some action, locate those things, bring soft logic in. We can assess those particular solutions and find ways to maintain them and to look after them properly and keep them running reliably for the client.